Hello, everyone. Welcome to another workshop by Tyos. And today we have with us Ashwarya Gupta. Hello, Ashwarya. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So, as you all know, the topic for today is to have more plants without buying. So, Ashwarya has been into gardening ever since her childhood, and she claims that she's never ever bought a plant. It was either gifted to her or she has exchanged plants with other plant lovers, and that's how she grew her amazing collection. So today we are going to talk about that, like how we can have more plants in our home without even spending single penny on them. Okay, so share about your journey, Ashwarya, and how this idea came into your mind and how all this started.
Sure. So, as we all know, like since childhood, how our parents have been growing plants and how they get their plants. So, if one of our relatives having some fancy plant, we propagate that plant, and when we take a cutting or we take some kind of thing, and then we take it back to our home. So that thing actually struck me. So we could do it in a large scale, so not just with people who we know like family or friends. We can also do this with people who actually like gardening. So if I like gardening, I'll have a huge collection of plants. So if we do it with such people, you'll have no idea how much plants you can collect just by getting those connections and propagating plants from them. So that is how I started it. So I started it informally with like family and friends, and then with people I know who like gardening, colleagues, anyone. So then I started this page called Plant Swap Hyderabad. So what this page actually does is like connecting those people together so that we can increase our huge your collection of plants will grow increase it'll be growing exponentially. So that's the main motive of it. And the whole thing that I got into gardening is like I was trying to live a low waste lifestyle. So I started with recycling, and then all our parents would have been doing this. Radiwala would come and they would take papers from us, newspapers. We keep storing in a cupboard, storing all the newspapers, and we give it to them. So then I increased that. From newspaper to cardboards to plastic to anything that is recycled, like iron, tin, glass bottles that we get for sauce or jam, anything. And then what happened was, out of waste, almost like 70 to 80% of our waste was actually organic waste that we eat every day, like vegetable peels or fruit peels or anything. So that's how I started my journey. So that vegetable peels, you can't recycle it. It has to go into the soil. So the nutrients that it provides, it has to go into back to the soil and compost it. So what do I do with all that compost? I had like very few plants and very like 5 to 10 pots. So I was producing more compost than I was it was needed. So then I started growing my collection of plants, and I now have like 40 to 50 varieties of plants. So all these plants came from swaps and gifted by others, but none of them, I don't go to nursery and buy plants. So that's how this journey started for me.
That's amazing, amazing to hear that. And yeah, I would like to mention to all our audience as well that I have put her Instagram handle link in the description box below, and you can go connect with her on Instagram. And if you want to exchange plants, and if you're in Hyderabad, then most welcome to connect with her, and she would love to exchange plants with her. Her handle is called Plant Swap Hyderabad. It's there in the description box below. Okay, continue, Ashwarya. It was amazing to hear how you started your journey. Very inspiring for many people.
Thanks. So I'll tell about the whole topic about today is like how to get more plants without any cost. So the way we can multiply our plants is by propagating. So if you have a plant and then you see how to propagate it, every plant has a different way of propagation. So if you understand that how it works, then we can actually multiply the number of plants we have. So I'll be showing today about how to do this thing. So I'll start with a simple propagation thing, that is like a stem cutting. So if you have any vines like money plant or any kind of syngonium or any philodendron or any kind of plants that's a vine. So I'll show you how to propagate that. So I have here a philodendron. This is a limelight philodendron. So this is a vine plant. So how you can identify a vine plant is that so this is the main place where it starts growing. So this is the leaf. So if you look at the stem, it has multiple nodes on it. So each node is this part. So you have like leaves coming out of here. So this is a node. So every node will have a root forming here. So if you want to propagate this kind of plant, any kind of this plant like money plant or syngonium or any kind of these plants, you have to cut it from where the root node is coming. So if you can see for few plants, there will be aerial roots coming. So if you can see here, this is a longer one. So this is an aerial root.
Yes.
Uh, so you have to take a cutting from a root node, and then you have to just I'll show you how to do it. So just take any sharp knife or scissors or anything. So you just have to cut it from a root node. So you see the node here and take a little further from the node and just cut it. So now you see this cutting. It has like, now this has two nodes. So one is here and one is here. So you
Okay.
have to place this into the soil. So these nodes have to submerge into the soil. So this is where the roots are forming from. So it has to go inside the soil. So dig a little deeper so that it has to touch the soil. You can also water propagate it. So if you are doing a water propagation, this node has to touch the water. So that is the
Okay.
only point. The node has to touch either the soil or the water. So
Okay.
this one is a very simple stem cutting propagation. So this can be done for any of the vines. So if you can see, I just made sure that the node is inside the soil. So now you have another philodendron. So this is available for swap if anyone from Hyderabad is looking for limelight philodendron. So please contact.
Amazing. And what is the pot that you have used?
This is a you get parcels from biryani or any food delivery
Okay.
apps. So you can take any such pot, drill holes to it, and then swap. You actually don't need anything to. So if you have a simple parcel bottle and water,
Mhm.
then that's it. Your plant will be growing. You don't need actually soil also for this plant. So it can just grow in water.
Yes. Amazing.
So you have the plant here. Anyone can pick it up. You guys would be having a random container, any parcel box, anything. Fill water every day, change the water, and you can grow this plant. So that's it. It's that simple to just garden.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is the stem cutting, the vine kind of thing. So this is Hawaiian tie. This plant, how it grows is this has a different kind of nodes. So earlier you can see you were able to see the roots coming out, right? So this is not this stem doesn't have such kind of formation. It has a
Okay.
different kind of formation. So usually if your plant is growing too big, what people suggest is you just trim the stem. So here if you see, I have trimmed the stem. Okay, wait. So I have trimmed the stem here. And what
Okay.
happens after I trim it? I got like 3 to 4 branches around it. So what happens if your plant is growing too tall? You just have to. So this one is growing too tall now. So you can't even see where the leaves are. It is outside the screen. So you can
Yeah.
just cut it out from anywhere where you want the so there's very less volume of leaves here, so you can just cut it here so that more nodes would form. So it's a healthy way of growing plant, so you'll get a very bushy plant. So this is one way to keep your plant healthy as well as propagating, so you get both benefits of it. So trimming and cutting plants is actually good for plants, and on the other side we are getting more plants as well.
Amazing. Yeah. So you cut it and you plant it in another pot and you have another plant. And this one will grow nice and healthy.
Correct. So I'll just cut it from here. So any pair of scissors, anything, you just have to take it, put some physical effort and cut it. So now you get two plants out of it. Look, this one will get very healthier. You'll get more branching out from here, and this will be your new plant. So this is
Amazing.
Hawaiian Thai. So this plant has nice red shade to it. So when it is exposed to like indirect or bright sunlight, so this will glow very bright red. So this plant is actually very good for indirect light. So we can try this out. Okay.
This one also grows in water.
Yes, yes, of course. So most of the plants grow in water for initial rooting, but after some point when they grow huge, like when it grows like branches out a lot, it doesn't get enough nutrients to those plants. So what happens is when it doesn't get enough nutrients, it either stunts the growth or it freezes, like it does not grow anymore. So it becomes very slow growth. If you want a healthy plant to grow, then we have to put it back in the soil. So the nutrients that soil releases is way greater than what water releases. So that is why usually plants grow in soil, but for rooting or decorating purpose, we can do it from water.
Okay.
So this is a syngonium plant. So I'll give random tips in between. So what happened with my syngonium plant is I actually placed it in a very low light condition. So what happened to this is actually the syngonium plant had like, so if you can see here, one of the root was the leaf node was coming from here, and the other root node was coming from here. If you see the distance between two of them, it's almost like a finger. And if
Mm-hmm.
I see it now, so it's very long. So
Oh,
what
okay.
happens is when there's very low light provided to the syngonium plant, it starts to stretch itself for reaching light. So that is how it has become very leggy and less bushier. So this is if you see any such kind of growth, what we have to do is just turn it around or place it in such a way that it gets more sunlight. It is it is showing symptoms of not getting enough sunlight. So
Okay.
we could observe the plants and understand how the plants are reacting to the surroundings. So this actually broke. So you can
Oh,
place this inside water. You can pick out one of the leaf so that the root node will expose a little bit more, and then you can
okay.
place it in soil or water, anything. So initially for rooting, you can put it in water, and then you can shift it to the soil. So these are the modes for it. There are very little root nodes. If you guys can see it,
Yes,
there are
yes.
very
It's
little
tiny. Yeah.
nodes. Yes, so you can use these cuttings to get more plants. So this is also a vine, syngonium, and here you see this is a ZZ plant. So this is a ZZ plant.
So
So
you
this
have
is
four
also,
plants in one pot.
Yeah, I swap too many plants that I fall shortage of pots, and they are growing so big, so I keep them in the same pot. These both are low light plants, so I mix them in such a way that they both can, and they don't need a lot of nutrients. Easy plant and Syngonium, they don't need a lot of nutrients. So this pot gives the enough nutrients, and also the light conditions for both are same, so it works out for me. So
Oh, that's nice.
so it's not a hard rule that we can't put two plants, and both of them are like growing very big and lush.
Very
So,
well, yes.
correct. So,
Amazing.
so this is a ZZ plant. How this ZZ plant grows can be propagated is by any of the leaf cuttings. So you can do this with, okay, I'll try it with scissors. So you can cut it out with a scissor, and this leaf itself is sufficient for this to root. So the root would form from the tip of the bottom of the leaf, and then it will form a rhizome.
Okay.
How the ZZ plant roots is the like onion bulbs or something. You get a rhizome here. uh,
Okay.
so you can put this in soil or in water. For rooting, it will work fine. So I'll show you how the rhizome looks like. So these are the bulb-like things that ZZ plant forms. So
Oh, wow.
they are very beautiful. So I actually dig up more and see how the roots are forming. So,
Lovely. Yeah.
and you can see here. So this is one kind of thing you can cut by a leaf propagation. If not, if you can see here, there are shoots coming up.
Yes.
The white sparkling one, those are
Yeah.
roots coming, sorry, those are shoots coming up, so there'll be a stem, this kind of stem forming here.
Hmm.
So how you can propagate, other way of propagating is this bulb, you can actually detach it from the parent bulb.
Okay.
So you can divide the rhizome, and then you can um, put it as a different plant. So
Oh,
this can form a different. It has its own root system. It has the shoot coming up, and it also has the root attached to the rhizome. So this thing is more than sufficient to propagate it. So I'll just try to break one of it. Okay, this is too strong. I think I'll
okay.
let it grow a little bit more so that it can be divided. So it's still very much attached to its parent. So once it
Okay.
grows a little bit, you can divide it.
All right. That's amazing.
So another tip about gardening. So you see a lot of dust accumulating on the leaves. So what
Yeah.
happens? The main thing that a plant needs for growing is sunlight, water, and air. So oxygen, it's everywhere. So what we have to make sure is we water regularly. We make sure the sunlight reaches the plant. So if there is dust accumulating on the leaves, it cannot photosynthesize and produce its own food. So we should make sure the leaves are clean. If you can see the difference, if I just rub, so there's a lot of
Yes.
being accumulated. Being in Hyderabad, this happens everywhere. So anyone probably in a dusty area can get. So how to clean it properly is, if you just rub it, there's still dust on it, so it doesn't clean properly. So you can use lemon water and take a tissue, and just this is just lemon water, diluted lemon water, and just
Okay.
take a tissue, and then if you rub it, the whole dust comes out, the whole everything cleans out from inside. If there is any cracks on the leaves, it's just like our hands, how we have
Yeah.
fingerprints. It's just like that, how ZZ plant, any plant in that, any leaves in that case will have dust accumulated. So it will clean from all those cracks, and it will be the sunlight will go right through it for photosynthesis. So this is one tip for gardeners to have a healthy plant. So How so? Do we clean every leaf each time? So ZZ plant, it is easy. It has very less plants. So what happens if you have more leaves? More, just take it under a tap. Just wash it under the flowing tap, and all the particles on top of it would go off. We can't rub lemon water to each
Yeah,
and every.
in each
So
and so. One question I wanted to ask you, Ashwarya, here. Oh, why lemon water? Can't we just use normal water?
So if you see that citrus, or if you see any floor cleaners or any kind of the strength of citrus, anything like lime or lemon or orange peels, all those citrus fruits, those kind of materials, it has a very strong effect on cleaning. So all these
Okay.
materials, it's not just for leaves clean, any plant cleaning, it is also for floor cleaning or any kind of cleaning.
Yeah, for household cleaning we use these things, but I was just wondering why for plants.
So it's a very strong one. So it clears it. It removes it. It like
It
how
removes
soap.
all the dirt effectively.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So that
Thank you
is
so
why we use lemon water. We can use
much.
normal water also. It's not a big deal. So lemon water, it
Okay.
does it little strongly. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
So I have another wine. So this is Monstera. This is a Monstera plant. If you can see this Monstera cheesecake plant. Uh,
Yeah.
So this plant is also, I got it from a swap from another plant parent. So I have took like a small cutting from them, and it has grown like very nicely in like 4 to 5 months. So this is also a vine. So the same way it works, they have nodes and all. So the same way you can just take a cuttings and place it for propagation. So this is like a very fancy plant, and I wanted this plant from very long. So thank God some plant parent was ready to swap it with me. So
So,
this is how I.
when you swap plants with other gardeners and plant
Like,
parents,
like
do you just give them a cutting or do you give them a potted plant?
So what happens is I keep my plants propagated and I keep them for rooting. So if I have it available rooted, I don't give pots for sure. If I have it available rooted and all, so I take the rooted cutting and then I swap it. Otherwise, if few people are really urgent in getting the plants, then I'll give the cuttings directly to them. And many of them, they come back saying it has grown from this size to this size, and they come back saying the plant has been growing very good, I want to get more plants. So the result is very good. It's not that the cutting dries up or anything. So actually I go and meet those people and then swap. So it's a direct one. It does not go in any courier or anything, so the plant
Okay.
cutting does not get damaged.
Okay. And it's vice versa from their side as well. They also give you
Yes.
a cutting in return.
Yes.
Okay.
If
Amazing.
they have it, if they have it available with the rooted one and potted one, they give it with the pots. But if I'm doing it very frequently, I don't have so many pots. I don't have so many pots myself. I keep putting all of them together. So
Okay.
pots I don't.
So, what the like criteria of exchanging? Like, do you tell them that I want this plant specifically or anything?
So, how I swap is I mention what all plants are available with me.
Okay.
So, there are few plants that are always available. So, like philodendron, it is growing very huge right now. So, I can give like 4 to 5 cuttings of this easily. So, I keep posting stories about these plants. So, if anyone is interested, they DM me saying, I have these plants. Do you want to exchange it with your philodendron? So, something like that. So I pick any of the plant. A few people come saying that I don't have any plants, but I really want to grow plants. I want to start with gardening. So people do come with those kind of interest as well. So I give whatever is available with me. So they don't get a chance to pick at that time. So I give whatever plants I have. So whatever is extra with me, I give those to them.
Oh, that's amazing. You're doing a
So
wonderful job. I really like what you're doing. It's
and
a very good way of, spreading happiness and inspiring more people and motivating them to, grow plants.
right, correct,
And people always love free stuff.
correct. Who doesn't like the free stuff? I
Yeah,
like free stuff myself.
yes. And there's no other more beautiful stuff to get other than plants.
Correct. So there's this cactus dragon plant. So how to propagate this plant is, so this cactus, it stores all the it is a very fleshy plant. It stores all the water in its stem itself. So if you can see here, I just made a cutting here. So this is like, if you can see here, this is another node coming out. But this is the cutting that I have already made. I had a swap with one person. So
Okay.
what I do is I cut another layer of it, and I just take it and try to root them. So if you can see here, I have placed few cuttings here. So this is one cutting, and this
Mhm.
is another cutting. This is another cutting. So these cuttings, if someone wants to swap, these are the rooted ones. So this is also rooted, and another this leaf is coming out. So this is well rooted. This was recently cut and put in the soil. So I just take the cutting from any of this healthy. This is a healthy growing stem. So I take a cutting from this, and then I place it in the soil, and then you can have as many dragon fruits as we want. It did not fruit yet, but it's growing well. So I did keep this in the terrace, so it needs a lot of sunlight to grow. So I got this as a cutting myself, so it still has time to grow the dragon fruits and all. For now, it's just a plant. So I'll show you how to cut this one. So you can take a knife. So you can just take a sharp knife and cut it from anywhere. So be very careful with these thorns. They are very pricky ones. So you can cut, so this is a fresh one. So you can place this into the soil directly, and you can like let it like an inch deep, 1 inch deep. So 1 inch is this much. So you can place it in the soil in 1 inch deep, and you can see the new branches coming out. So this is how this cactus will be propagated. So this is one kind of propagation for cactus. So there's another cactus. Okay. So this is another cactus. So how this propagates is like you get these branches, right? So you can actually hold them and twist it, and it will separate from the main branch, and then this will come out as it will be very loosely binded to the parent. So you can actually twist it and then pull it apart, and this would come out. So while doing this, you can use a tissue paper. These are all thorns; it will prick us. So you can just hold. So make sure this leaf, this branch, is at least 6 months old. So it will have its own. So it will grow big, and it can live on its own. So it should
Survive
be
on
at
its
least
own. Yeah.
correct. So this at least has to be of 6 months to propagate. I got
Okay.
this very recently, so I don't think it served its 6 months period yet. So I'll not be propagating this today, but this is how another way of propagating cactuses.
Okay. So there's another swap plant that you got.
Correct. So all the plants that you see now is all swapped. It's I didn't buy any.
Okay. Okay.
And
So do
so
you mainly focus on foliage plants, or do you have any gardening, like vegetable and fruit and flowering
So
plants as well?
So I don't have any flowering plant. I mostly do foliage and any kind of succulents or any small plants which does not take a lot of space and all. And
Okay.
about vegetables and fruits, I don't have anything. But randomly, like tomatoes and any seed when they like by chance fall into the soil, they grow up. So I don't pick those up, so it grows, and I do get tomatoes, chilies, those kind of uh, vegetables. Other than that, I don't intentionally grow any vegetables. I should try that
Okay.
sometime. Yeah.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Yeah. So this is a snake plant. This can also be grown from a leaf cutting, or we. So if you can see here, there are two plants already coming out of this pot. So what we can do is, so this is another type of propagating. So you can divide them. This is also having a rhizome kind of root structure. So it will be a very fat. Uh, uh, Root, so it stores all the starch and water, everything. The root is the main source of plant growth for this kind of snake plant. So I'll be showing how to divide it. So this is the plant. So I pulled it out of the pot. So if you can see how this is a division kind of propagation. This is the different division kind of propagation. You just have to pull them apart, and you see here the white one, white root. So this is the
Yeah.
fat root that it forms. So this is the main source of growth for this kind of plant. So you can divide these plants and you get two different plants. So
Two
this is
plants.
one kind of propagation. And so I'll show how succulents work. So I have a very tiny succulent. So it's surviving kind of it. I thought it almost died, but somehow it is surviving. So how you can propagate this is you can take a leaf, and if you put it on this just by leaf, if you put it on the top layer of the soil, you just have to place it flat, and then the roots would form, and a beautiful bud kind of succulent raises from it. So that is how the succulents propagate. So I have not tried propagating this yet, but this itself is still surviving. So something's wrong. I have to figure out if the light is wrong or the water is wrong, whatever is wrong with it, I have to figure out. So somehow it is still surviving, so I'll not be propagating this today. And this is a jade plant. This can also be propagated by stem cutting. So I'll show you. So I made a cutting already. What I do is I keep the all the propagated plants in the water. So I use leca balls to hold the root system intact. And then this is the jade plant. So I took a leaf cutting out, stem cutting out of it. And then if you can see, so this is the root coming out for the jade plant. So it has beautifully formed its root system. So this jade plant, if this jade plant is also available for swap. And I can show you how ZZ plant is also forming its root. So there's a small bulb coming out from its root. So this is a ZZ leaf. This plant which I showed, the ZZ plant. So this is that leaf. So this is the root that is forming for it. So the bulb which a huge rhizome was formed. So this is the root formation for ZZ. So this still has to be grown. it has to still form good amount of uh, it
Roots,
needs more
root
time
system.
to
Yeah.
correct. And I'll show you how mother of thousand propagates. So this is a mother of thousand plant. So this has a different style of propagating in itself. So if you can see here, these are the plantlets. So on the border of the leaf, it grows plantlets on the border of the leaf. So um, every hill kind of edge that it has, it keeps getting plantlets out of it. So all these plantlets you see here can be propagated. So you just have to pick this plantlet. So this is a plant in itself now. So you just have to put this plantlet into soil, and then you'll see the roots forming out of it. So I have propagated a plantlet. So I'll show you how it looks like. So this mother of thousand, I have propagated it around like 2 months or something. So it has grown this big. So this also needs a lot of sunlight. It has very thick leaf, so it requires very less watering, and it will require a lot of sunlight. So I keep this also in terrace. So my balcony gets a lot of indirect light, but not a lot of sunlight. So I moved this to terrace as well. So this is the root formation of mother of thousand. So if I have plants ready like this with rooted, then I give them with the rooted ones. If I don't have them ready, I take the plantlets out of the mother of thousand plants, and I would directly give the plantlet. And both of them work the same way. So this is like a 2 months old or something, right? So you would just save a 2 months of your time for this to grow. That's
Okay, amazing.
it. I'll show how to propagate this plant. So another tip. So what happened with this plant is like if you see the yellow patches here, I
Mm-hmm.
started overwatering it somehow, and then
Oh,
all the leaves they got these yellow patches. So
oh,
think this plant will survive. Now I have uh, I'm letting the soil dry so that it doesn't get a lot of water. Like this kind of thing doesn't happen this to this plant. So this is Rat Ki Rani plant. I don't remember the scientific name of it, but we call it Rat Ki Rani. It blooms in the night, like
uh-huh.
after sunsets, and then it just vanishes like in half of day. Like the night it blooms, and then in the morning if you see it will the bud it would frown. So it
Droop.
only stays
Uh-huh.
for yeah, it only stays for very less time. So how
Oh,
you can propagate this plant is you can take any leaf, and you see the join to the main
yeah.
branch. You just have to cut it. So so now you have to just place it in the soil. You can put it in the same soil as well. So and this thing will become a plant in itself. So this is
Oh,
how you propagate Ratki Rani plant. I'll show you how I have propagated this plant like Ratki Rani about a month before, I guess. So so this is the root system that it has formed.
mm-hmm.
And if you can see here, the white shoot coming up. So
Yes.
so a stem would come out of this, and this is the start of the new plant. So
Okay.
this is also available with for swap. If anyone interested, contact me.
I like the way you say this is available for swap for every plant propagating. So we had
The
like
whole
five, six plants ready now.
Yeah,
Right.
these plants are like almost always available. Anytime this plant will be, these are very easy to propagate. I don't have to do much work, or I don't have to do a trial and error, thinking would it work in water, would it work in soil, or would it grow in what kind of sunlight. So I've been doing this for around 2 years since the lockdown started, 1.5 year or something. So I got used to how this process goes. So it's very quick now. I can swap more plants now.
Yes, amazing.
And I have this.
Can you
So
talk
these are
about, sorry to interrupt you, can you talk a little about the soil mixture or the soil composition that you use for your plants?
sure. So for so depending on the type of plant, it differs. So most of my plants will require like half of the garden soil, and I add 1:1 ratio of garden soil and my compost. And every year or something, I refresh the like I remove like 25% of the soil from the top layer, and then I refresh it with the new compost. So it keeps the nutrients intact, so the soil does not lose its life, so it keeps alive. If I take for cactuses and all, I don't add compost at all to it, so it doesn't require a lot of nutrients and all. But I add like it has a sand and garden soil kind of mixture. For cactuses, I just place it in the sunlight, like bright sunlight. So
Okay.
I let them strive for the growth. I don't add any fertilizers, but there are fertilizers for cactuses as well. But I haven't used that yet.
Okay.
So this is a penny wort plant. So penny is a coin. So leaf of the shape of the leaf is kind of coin. So that's called penny worts plant. So how this plant grows, it's a runner. So what happens is each leaf is attached to a stem, and that stem is the runner. So it keeps crawling over all the complete soil. So it grows with the volume of the soil. So the container that I put it in, it doesn't have a lot of depth, but it requires a lot of length. So
Okay.
this is the runner plant. So how you propagate this plant is, I'll show how the root. So it basically all depends on how the root system of each plant is. So if we try to understand the root system of each plant, we kind of figure out how the propagation would work. So if you see here, so each leaf will have a root system on its own. So this is a
Uh-huh.
root, and this is a root, and then this is a root, this is a root. So how you
Yeah.
propagate it? It should at least have a root. So you
Okay.
can cut each leaf out. So if I make a cutting here, so it has its own. It ha- each of the stem has its own root, its own leaf, and its own runner. So it can grow in any of the direction, and it can be propagated. So this is how
Oh,
this runner plants are propagated.
lovely.
So these are the most plants. If we know all these kind of propagation, you can propagate almost all the plants that are available in normal gardening. So uh, a house plant, I mean, if a house plant is a vine, then you do it with the nodes. If a house plant is a runner, just like how I showed, then you propagate using those root division. If your plant is a succulent, you can do it with a leaf. If your plant is what else? If it has a rhizome, then you can divide the rhizome. So most of the house plants come into any of this section, and you can divide. You can apply the appropriate propagation technique to it, and we can propagate it. So this would cover most of the propagations of house plants.
Amazing.
I want to talk about composting. So I just mentioned how I do my soil mix, right? So all the whole purpose of me starting gardening was also composting. So I started with the waste segregation, right? So organic waste is like 70% of waste that we produce in house. So what happens if you don't compost? All this waste will end up into landfills. So
Yeah.
landfills is like piling up every year and year. So all that landfills are not decomposed in a proper way. So it encourages more diseases to come up, or more of uh, bad gases would be released. So all such kind of things will happen if we don't compost and let it go to the landfills. So that was the main reason, like, I follow a lot of sustainable practices myself within the home. So I do my part of uh, some I do my part to the world. So that is how I started with composting. So
That's
how
really
do we come things. So, how do we compost at home? I will show a simple and very basic way of composting. So you don't require a lot of things. You don't have to buy anything for composting as well. So you can do with all the things that you have at home, and you can do the composting. So
okay.
the basic needs that we want for composting is also like a container. So you'll
Okay.
need like okay, how do you decide what is the size of the container? I'll start with that. So I would suggest to start with very small and understand the complete process of composting. So around it takes like 6 months or 7 months to complete a process of composting from a vegetable, from the organic matter which breaks down and gets decomposed in the soil. That whole process will take us 6 months. So what we have to initially try is just start with a very small batch of composting. So start it with the smallest container that you can find in the house, and take
Okay.
just 1 days of organic waste, and follow the whole cycle of the composting. So you'll have an idea of how it works, so that the
Okay.
next 6 months we can actually figure out if this process is working out, or should we do something else. Or it's kind of how gardening works. We do trial and error. We see how it's
Mhm.
working. If it doesn't work, we have to add something to it, or we have to provide whatever it requires for the growth. The same thing has to happen for composting as well.
Okay.
So you can just take a small bucket. So this is a paint box. I painted it brown color, but this is a paint box that you find
Paint
any
bucket. Yeah.
paint bucket. So you can find this anywhere.
Yeah.
And then what it is required is you have to make holes to the
At the
bottom of
bottom.
at the bottom of
How
the.
many liters is this?
So this is like 12 inches. You can say a long scale, 30
Okay.
centimeter or 12 inches. So this is of
Okay.
that size.
All
Uh,
right.
and then to drill holes, you can do any method. So I just heated up this
Nail.
screw or any kind of
Okay.
nail, anything.
Yeah.
So just heat it up, and then you can push it. So you can make holes using this method, or you can directly take a nail and hammer it. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a perfect circle, or it doesn't have to be a beautiful image or with anything. You just have to have a crack on it so that the water can leak out. It should not store any water inside the bucket. It should leak out whatever liquids that it produces. So make enough holes so that it's a screw, so it doesn't come out that way. I have to
Okay.
rotate.
So approximately how many holes uh, is required?
So if I made it very small circle, so it will require a lot many holes. So if you're doing a big hole, then it would require like two holes would be sufficient. So the
Oh,
main purpose of it is like doesn't have to store any water substance. So if you
Okay.
see your so how gardening works, if the soil is too hard, what happens is it keeps running off all the water, it doesn't store anything. If there is anything stuck in the near the hole, it doesn't let the water pass out and it will stop the hole. So you have to monitor how we have to monitor how the holes are, and we accordingly have to clean it up, or we have to check the drainage properly. So it works with like 5 to 6 holes of this size actually, so it will run off. Or you can so how we line this compost bin is with a newspaper, or you can fill in some light particles. So what happens is when the light particles are at the bottom, so whatever heavy particles are on the top, it will let the water pass through it, and the light particles, it does not store anything, so it does not block any of the hole. It will run away
Oh,
all the water from the drainage. So
yeah.
the compost itself is designed in that way that it drains out the water easily. So
Okay.
to start with, after making the holes, what we have to do is we have to line the bucket. So you can use any kind of newspaper, old newspaper, and you just have to uh, cover it. So take a random cutting of the newspaper and just cover it uh, at the bottom layer of the bucket. So you'll have something like this. So what will happen is the bottom layer will be always filled with water, so all the water will be coming down. So make sure the dry particles are here. So what are the other particles that are dry is dried leaves. So this
Okay.
is like all the plants that they shed leaves, right? So when you
Mhm.
have you collect all of those leaves and you just keep it for the composting. So you can add. What happens? See, the dry leaves, they they're dry, so they absorb a lot of moisture into them. So
Okay.
this acts as a moisture controller. So
Okay.
these are called browns. So there are like four main ingredients that we put into the composting. So one is browns, second is greens, and we need water and oxygen. Oxygen is we need to aerate it. So
Okay.
aerated is we have to mix it. So what are browns? Browns are the dried leaves or newspaper, or you can add tissue papers, any used tissue papers, or you can even add cardboards. So these are all moisture controllers, they absorb moisture. So you can also add egg carton. So
Okay.
any of this can be used as browns. So all these browns are used to control the moisture. And the green part. So what you call a green is the moisture generator. So how so these are the greens. So this is the greens are the actual organic matter. So
Okay.
these are like daily whatever food we cook or we eat, peels of those. So I have watermelon peel, I have onion peel, I have random vegetable cuttings. We can also add flowers. So flowers are also good for fertilizing, for composting. And we can
Uh-huh.
add citrus peels, and we can add eggshells. Eggshells is good source for calcium for plants as well. So we eat egg for calcium ourselves. The same eggshell would go into the compost and it will give a lot of calcium to the plants. And we can
Okay.
add hair as well. So we can compost hair, and it provides a lot of nitrogen to the compost. So
Oh,
nitrogen helps with how the compost works is it produces, like we heard about npk fertilizers, right? If we are into the gardening field a lot, we hear this term like npk fertilizer and all. So
yes, yes.
npk is like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So this hair is a good source for nitrogen. If
Okay.
you want to see for nitrogen, phosphorus. So phosphorus, it will wait. Nitrogen is greens, sorry. Nitrogen is greens, and here is for phosphorus. And then for potassium, I have dried banana peels. So these three are
Oh,
the things that mainly composes of compost. So, so eggshells and all, it adds calcium, and there are many more minerals as well, like magnesium or other minerals also that plant needs. So you can how we eat different kinds of food to get all different kinds of nutrients. The same way we add kind of vegetables, different kind of fruits to get similar nutrition to the plants. So what we have to do next is, after adding the browns, we have to the composting works in layers. So we add a layer of browns, and then we have to add a layer of greens, and we have to repeat adding layer of browns and then greens until our buckets get filled. So I have added a layer of browns, right? So I'll add all the organic waste into it. So you can add vegetables, anything that comes from plant can go inside to the compost again. So anything decomposable, anything that that is organic, that can go inside the compost again. So I have added a layer of compost, layer of greens. And now, what happens with the greens is they are wet, right? They have a lot of moisture in them. So, what
yeah.
happens with these greens is they attract flies, or they attract ants, or they attract all kinds of uh, different organisms. So, to avoid that, we cover it back with browns. Brown are the dry material. So, flies don't come and sit on browns because they don't get anything out of brown.
Yeah.
It's not a food for them. So we have to cover it with the browns again. So you can use the newspaper or cardboard, anything. But I usually keep the newspapers and cardboards for recycling. So instead of using it to the compost, I keep them aside for the recycling. So what instead I use is the cocoa cocoa husk. So we can get this cocoa husk. So all Indians actually, they bring coconuts. You
Yeah.
can say actually, South Indians. So South Indians use a lot of coconuts in their food. So you get a shell, and you can pull apart this husk from that coconut, and then all this coconut husk comprises of coconut coir. So this part is called coconut coir, and the powder that we get out of this. So if you rub a little of this coconut, you get powder. So this powder is cocoa. What is it? Cocoa peat. So this is cocoa peat,
Okay.
and the husk is all coconut coir. So you can add a layer of cocoa peat. You can buy it from the store as well. So they do
Uh-huh.
sell cocoa peat. If you don't want to buy anything, so you can just, all South Indians will obviously have this at home. So you just have to pull this apart, or you can directly add a lot of. If you have a lot of coconut husk, you can directly add it. So this
Okay.
cocoa husk and cocoa coir, this is also a moisture. This is like a sponge actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it can absorb a lot of moisture into it. So you can add this as a cover to your greens,
Okay.
and it will not let any flies or any kind of other creatures coming crawling to your compost. So it will cover nicely, and it will also absorb a lot of moisture from your greens. So you have to make a layer of uh, cocoa husk, and then
Okay.
it will be covered. And after adding, so I made a three layers of brown, green, and then brown again. So after this, if you feel, if you have a lot of greens, it has moisture in itself, so you don't have to add water again. So now
Okay.
I feel that it's a little dry, so I can add a little more water to it. So it so what happens with the correct amount of moisture is, it will let it ferment by itself. So
Mm-hmm.
it, so it has to break down, right?
Yeah.
So it has to break down, and then all the greens have to come back to the soily kind of texture. So for that it will take like 6 months of time. If you want to if okay, so how does it get come break how does it get break down is you have to add microbes to it. So
Hmm.
microbes are like particles in some microorganism. What happens, it goes and eats those organic waste that we have put in, and it will turn it into soil back again. So
Yeah.
what is the microbe for easily available microbe for us is buttermilk. So it's a sour
Okay.
buttermilk. So you can just sprinkle some buttermilk to it. So it will start the fermentation process, and it will start breaking down all the greens, and uh, making the compost very soily in texture. So this you just need buttermilk that is available all over in India. Everyone uses it. You have organic waste, that is peels and all. So you do produce it every day. And for browns, you just have to take any leaves. If you don't have plants at home, go to a park. Just pick leaves. Nobody cares if you pick dried leaves. So just pick and just put it in your bed. Cover it completely and wait for some time. And then main thing is that oxygenating, aerating. So what happens is, if you make this if you keep this untouched, what will happen, it will become very hard. So there will be
Uh-huh.
no air for these microbes to move around, or the microbes have to breathe, right? So even they need something, oxygen, they need moisture, they need all those things for them also to grow. If microbes die, this compost will not turn into soil again. So you have
Okay.
aerating it. So you just have to, you can use any kind of mixing tool, anything, or you can just use your hand, and you just have to rotate your waste, so that while rotating, all the air will, it will get a lot of aeration. So
Yeah.
uh, once in a month you can rotate. If you see the soil is too hard, if it is getting too hard, or if it is getting too compacted, so what happens now, you put a watermelon, right? So watermelon is full of it's mostly moisture. So within
Hmm.
a week or something, this will shrink into half of its size. So even if you put it in sun as well, it will shrink half of its size. So it will become compact due to adding more layers on top of the compost. This will become very compact in the lower layers. So we have to keep aerating it until the bottom of the bucket. So
Okay.
that is how we aerate it. So these are the main parts of composting. So
Amazing. Thank you so much for explaining it in detail. Really
thank you.
loved listening to it.
Thank you. One more thing. So I actually told about composting with the buttermilk, right? So this is the microbes kind of composting. So we also can do a warm compost. This is vermi compost. We do buy from gardeners, right? Like vermi
Yeah.
compost. So what happens with vermi compost is you need worms for it. So earthworms, or kind of worms that actually break down the soil. One second.
Looking for worms.
Yeah, I collected worms today morning.
Okay.
So to show how the compost looks like, this is the texture of the compost at the
Hmm.
end. So it will be
Okay.
very soil kind of texture. Okay, I don't find worms now. Okay, so there'll be earthworms, kind of worms. So if you add those earthworms into your compost, the process becomes really fast. And also the
Okay.
nutrients that we get from the vermicompost is much more nutritious than the normal sour milk, like microbes kind of compost. So adding worms is actually very good for the soil health. So this is also available for swap. So if anyone is looking for getting worms, I can swap that as well.
Oh,
That's it.
that's lovely. Okay, that is why maybe people who use worms, they say that the compost is ready in 3 months.
Correct. So it's very quick. So
Quick.
and so one more thing about worms is like you should not place it in sunlight. So when you place your compost bin in the sunlight, worms are
Uh-huh.
they react very poorly to sunlight. They try to go in deeper in darker places. So they die when a lot of sunlight falls on them. So we have to keep it in a darker place. For normal aeration, normal microbe kind of compost, we can put it in sunlight.
Oh, okay. That's an amazing tip. Thanks for sharing with us. That was a lovely session, Ashwarya. So we have, crossed our 1 hour time now. So is there anything else that you wanted to discuss, or let's wrap up the session?
I'm so all the topics I have covered, so I'm good.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing with us your wonderful tips on composting and propagation. And your idea of swapping plants is amazing. And we would like to tell our viewers, whoever is interested, you can contact Ashwarya if you're in Hyderabad on Instagram. Her Instagram handle is Plant Swap Hyderabad, and you can get in touch with her and get some new plants for your house and exchange plants with her as well.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
now she's
everyone.
also giving away some worms for your compost, so that's an amazing thing.
So
So start.
anyone who wants to start with composting, I'm always available through my Insta handle. So anything that you guys want help with, so I can help you guys with composting, propagating, any such kind of topics.
Amazing. Okay, Ashwarya, thank you so much for joining us today. We had a lovely session. I really enjoyed, and I hope a lot of people will start planting and composting their waste now.
True. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.